The following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Lawyer who took out a contract on secretary loses appeal. A veteran attorney who ordered a hit on his secretary that he suspected of snitching about his illegal activities has lost his appeal against his conviction for attempted murder. Delivering a written judgment yesterday morning, appellate judges Alice York Suhan, Malcolm Holdip, and Ronnie Boodoo Singh rejected all the grounds of appeal raised by Joseph Melville and affirmed the 19-year prison sentence he received when he was convicted in 2017. In the appeal, Melville's main ground of contention was the fact that the trial judge who presided over his case allowed prosecutors to use the preliminary inquiry testimony of one of the state's main witnesses, Ainsley Allen. Allen, one of three men allegedly hired by Melville to erase his secretary, Patricia Cox, was himself erased before the trial of the case, and his testimony during the inquiry was allowed into evidence. Melville's lawyer, Evans Welsh, challenged the process used by prosecutors to tender his deposition as he questioned their method of proving that a headless body identified as Allen was in fact him through a photograph and fingerprints. Responding to Welsh, attorneys Travers Sinanan and Tricia Hudlin Cooper said the trial judge was best placed to decide whether Allen's deposition could be used based on the totality of the evidence before her. In their judgment, the appeal panel noted that while the judge used an incorrect procedure to tender Allen's photograph in evidence for his aunt to identify him, the photograph could have still been used. The panel also disagreed with Melville's attorney over whether the state had provided enough evidence to support its claim that Allen was deceased and could not testify. The panel also rejected complaints over Allen's testimony in which he allegedly made prejudicial statements over Melville's character. In the event that the judge had given the specific warning to the jury on how to deal with the impunged evidence in relation to the credibility limb of the good character direction, we do not believe that it would have made a difference to the verdict given the strength of the evidence, they said. According to the evidence in the case, Allen, Hilton Winchester, and Jason Holder were hired by Melville to kidnap and erase Cox in 2001. Allen had claimed that on June 28, 2001, he was approached by Melville through a mutual friend, Holder, and was offered $40,000 to erase Cox. He said Cox was talking his business with the police and fraud squad was getting close, Allen said. Cox, in her testimony, had admitted that she had threatened to report him after she learned that Melville had cashed in 2 insurance policies and failed to pay them to his client. Allen testified that he, Holder, and Winchester got instructions from Melville to drive to and wait by his office at Pembroke Street in Port of Spain, where Cox would meet them for what she believed would be a drive to collect legal documents at a client's home. He said that after Cox got into the car, Winchester drove to Cumberland Hill in St. James. Before reaching the location, Allen locked Cox's neck while Holder stripped her of her clothes and jewelry. He admitted to attempting to assault Cox in the car, but claimed to have stopped after she said she was on her period. Allen said that upon reaching the location, they took Cox out of the car and placed her to sit on a boulder next to a precipice as they pondered how they would erase her, as they had no weapons. Holder picked up a stone and said it would be the fastest way to do it, Allen said. He said that Cox was begging for her life, and he informed her that it was Melville who had hired them to erase her. Cox then offered to pay them a larger sum to forego her demise. I asked her if she wanted to hide out and pretend to be dead, and we would split the money with her when we got paid, he said. Before she could respond to her proposal, She jumped off the precipice and ran into a forested area. Holder found her but was forced to let her go after a man who was hiking in the area saw the incident through his binoculars and raised an alarm. Cox said she hid for a while and then hiked through the forested area through the night until she reached the housing development the next morning. Melville, Allen, Holder, and Winchester were charged with the crime. Allen was made a state witness, while Holder was freed at the preliminary inquiry stage. Winchester was convicted alongside Melville in 2004 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Melville appealed his initial conviction and got a retrial. Trini-born mom and son trapped in basement apartment perish in Ida storm. The storm's victims included at least 15 people in New York State and 23 in New Jersey. Some died as waters inundated their basement homes. On Thursday, a day after New York City and the surrounding area was pummeled with the remnants of Hurricane Ida, an onslaught with the destructive power of shocking proportions, the region took stock of the mounting dead. As of late afternoon, at least 15 people had been found in New York State, at least 23 people had been killed in New Jersey, 4 were found dead in Pennsylvania, and 1 person died in Connecticut. Families and friends of the dead reeled as they relived the split seconds when the water took the people they loved. It was painfully sunny on Thursday, following the chaos of a storm that had swept in at about 9 the night before, washing through homes, swallowing up vehicles, and sucking down lives. Some victims met their demise by collapsing structures, while others were overcome by onrushing water. Many of the flood's victims lived in basement apartments, some of which were subterranean dwellings carved out illegally from larger homes and may have lacked the emergency egress required of legitimate apartments. Comparatively low-cost living spaces, they are a refuge of thousands of the city's poor, even as they are known to be fire traps. Overnight, the basements became traps of water. A number of people were killed after walls and roofs failed to hold up the deluge. More than half a foot fell in just a few hours. The rain broke records set just about a week and a half prior by Tropical Storm Henry, underscoring climate scientists' warnings of the future of a hotter planet producing even stronger storms. As the walls began to leak in their basement apartment on 123rd Street in Hollis, Queens, and the water reached their ankles, the Ramscreets, father, mother, and 2 sons, hustled to get their things. Suddenly, they heard a collapse, said Dylan Ramscreet, one of the brothers, and a rush of water shoved them through the pitch-black apartment as the walls caved in. The torrent swept his father, Dameshwar, across the home as he clutched for the hand of his wife, who was known as Tara. "I tried to hold on to my wife and she was trying to hold on to me," he said on Thursday. He began to cry, "But the water pushed me away and I couldn't feel her hand anymore." Mrs. Ramscreet and their 22-year-old son, who went by Nick, both drowned.